I tried calling him.
So I am filling in for Mayor Williams today, and I apologize for my voice. The ragweed has gotten me, and I've got sinus infection, had laryngitis last week, so I'm still trying to recover from that. But welcome to the Southern Lowcountry Regional Board Meeting agenda. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and Dan and Patsy, if y'all want to come up, because I have a feeling that the county reps may not be here today since they were up until the wee hours this morning. So at this time, is there any old business that needs to be discussed? All right, seeing none, we'll move right into our agenda, and we'll go to new business and USCB's expansion plans. Dr. Panu, you're up.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, I have to learn technology here. See if I can find it.
Just minimize the screen.
Look at Hardyville getting all high tech on us out here. This is great.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to brief you on the Sand Shark project 2020 project, and it's just a really great opportunity for our institution and for our region to be able to speak to that. And just by way of background, USCB this past year was ending a celebration of its 20th year as a four-year degree granting institution. In 2004 is the vision of this particular community that played a critical role in allowing USCB to become a four-year degree granting institution. And during that period and leading up to that time, a lot of conversations and discussions about what can this institution be and what is it that we need from a four-year degree granting institution, why should we have it, and what can we expect. And over the past 20 years, we had a chance to truly reflect over some of that and to take stock and to really recognize in large measures that the institution was able to really meet a lot of expectations in some areas, exceed expectations, and obviously other areas that are continuing to be able to be developed. Hence, the idea of a Sand Shark 2020 project, not only looking back and building on the past 20 years, but also looking at a future 20 years and being potentially even a little bit more bold about what we can envision for the coming 20 years. And critical to that is the community impact. This is absolutely critical to us. USCB's last economic impact study put it at $141 million economic impact, and actually we believe that it needs to be revised because that number should be even much higher than where we projected, and that's not something that even 20 years ago we were looking at there. I want to go back about 5 years or more ago when we first started talking about the incredible need that we had with the arena space. And we took the approach that we were going to have a partnership between the state in terms of funding the initiative and the local community, the county and municipality if possible, in support of that. And 5 years ago, when we first entertained the idea of this large venue, we just knew that we needed a very big multi-purpose facility, not only for athletic purposes, but for a lot of events, for commencement, every year at commencement. We are on our knees praying that the weather would cooperate with us, otherwise we would be in really big trouble. At this past commencement, we had over 3,000 to 4,000 people out there gathered, and if it rains, we're in trouble. I mean, major trouble. And in addition to those, we also know that that's a need not only for us, but for a lot of high school graduations and large event venue that is very much needed, trade shows, concerts, etc. There's just a lot of other things that were needed with this with large venue event. So we spoke about it and we proposed some initiative planning around it. We had an economic impact study done on that. Unfortunately, the price point has been increasing over the past 5 years. I'm not telling you something you don't know. And what was estimated at 50 million is easily 70, 75 plus, just a few years later. So anyhow, what I've shown here for you is the Bluffton campus with a multi-phase envisioning of the Sand Shark 2020 master plan. And I said multi-phase because this is envisioned to take place in phases. But we have here proposed the arena, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And down the line, we also have envision a parking structure that would allow us to be able to accommodate a lot more of what we envision at some point the needs would be with regard to parking. We envision potentially third-party entities that would be able to envision hotels facility depending on the events and the venue business that is going to be there. We have the fields here, that baseball and softball and track and field. And part of phase one, as I will discuss in just a moment, is going to focus primarily on the arena and on the fields being brought on campus. And I'll share a little bit more in just a second about that. And then in addition to that, some of the other things that could be down the line in the planning would be practice here for golf, but I think this is just kind of a visioning, a total complete visioning, depending on all of what could happen. But for our purposes, especially right now, I want to focus a little bit more on the arena and on the field. Okay, and we've also, as part of our conversation, talked about a bridge over 278 that would be able to facilitate the back and forth between these areas. It could be a pedestrian bridge, and we've also had, obviously, people encouraging more than pedestrian in terms of potentially vehicles involved in there. This is a quick rendering of the arena that's been envisioned. We have kind of changed our numbers a little bit depending on the time frame and the dollar figures that we'll throw up here. But roundly, we talk about 4,000 capacity arena, and in this case. But very flexible, designed to be multi-purpose to accommodate not only sporting events, not only basketball and volleyball and tournaments and of the kind, but also, as I indicated, large events like commencements and graduations and concerts, plays, trade shows. And you'll see in some of the rendering, the flexibility that is in the design in order to be able to accommodate all those different aspects of it. So not only are we focused on the educational needs, but also the cultural and economic needs of the region to be able to help with this particular infrastructure facility. Here again, showing the multi-phase and focusing a little bit on the bridges crossing over to 78. Okay, this is some of the rendering of the different configurations that you can see with the facility here. And the goal is to truly provide maximum flexibility and efficiency in how the seating and the accommodations could be done. Also, what I didn't stress very much here, but that was a very important part of the conversation from the get-go, is having a facility in our region that is part of the emergency response that we would envision. As you know, it's not if, but often when we're dealing with the weather situations here. And USCB is already serving as the southern site for the county and the region, actually, emergency response system. And so this facility would allow us to be able to do that, provided we get the proper permissions, because I think the governor needs to be involved with some of those calls. But that's potentially envisioned in there. Here is some rendering that configurations that supports the athletics and the trade show type configurations. And again, maximum flexibility for all kinds of events that would be there, just giving you some specs here. And let me also talk a little bit about the fields. As an institution, as a growing institution, we are competing amongst other institutions, not only in Georgia, but obviously in South Carolina, in our region. And I have to tell you how exciting it has been for our students to actually be retained here, to not only be here, they know they're getting some of the absolute best education, but they're staying because we've never seen the school spirit as high as it has been recently, okay, with the launch of basketball 2 years ago for men and women, in addition to the other things that are going on. And what basketball has taught us and what we've learned is that the school spirit is so high because the students have the ability to engage right there and then, and it stays. And we've seen the highest retention almost of any institution as a result of some of that. So we know that part of what drives retention and continued growth that comes with it is the ability for our students to be engaged and to be right there. And the fields on campus, baseball and softball, will add to that particular dimension tremendously. And in addition to obviously supporting tournaments and all the other events that are surrounding baseball baseball and softball as sports. So really, really very much excited about that being part of the phase one that we are envisioning at this point. Again, multi-phase, and we'll do it phase one, phase two, and possibly phase three, and we'll look at all of that, especially in light of the funding that would come. We are a growing institution, and we are absolutely grateful for the community support, and we do believe that this will provide us an incredible opportunity to continue to grow, not only as an institution, but also to support the community's economic development, and as a venue having studied some of the other venues that are similar, we know that we will be able to truly attract a lot, and this is something that will fill a tremendous need in our community here. These students, thank you. So thank you so much. Appreciate that. Okay. So let me say something about the numbers, and because that's always an important piece, and the opportunity not only to engage the county but also the municipality in this particular initiative. Let me also, before I jump into the number, I want to acknowledge Justin Rice, who is the chairman of the USCB Education Foundation, that has been tremendously helpful to us in this particular initiative. And so we're absolutely grateful for the incredible support and engagement with us. Over the past 5 years, going to the state, working with our legislative delegation, the state has now accumulated for us a total about of $47 million in contributions. And we were hoping, depending on what we were including in phase one, to be at about 120 initiative. However, further discussions and the drawdown on both the size of the facility a little bit and what we were going to only include in phase one, we are now asking county for a match to the state. So $47 million to match what the state is provided already toward this particular initiative, and additional support perhaps from the municipalities, and in order for us to get to where we can successfully complete the arena and the fields, both baseball, softball, and track and field as part of that phase one. And again, numbers are going to fluctuate a little bit, but we believe that with 95 to perhaps 105 range, we can accomplish that particular goal. So that's kind of where we are with regard to numbers, and we're talking to all of you with regard to those, so we can try to accomplish this as quickly as we can, because the price point keeps going up, and we certainly want to be able to achieve this. And I don't think I mentioned this, but I think perhaps the news is already out there, but after 3 years of provisional process with NCAA Division II, USCB was this past July approved to be an active full member of the Peachbelt Conference within the NCAA Division II athletics, and very excited about that. And I think it's translating in so many ways. And I should brag about our athletics by telling you that even during the provisional process this past year, our golf team for men's golf won the conference championship. And because we were in provisional process, we couldn't go beyond the regional competition. And our men's basketball team was the runner-up team, lost to USC Aiken in that championship, having eliminated the number one team. And there's kind of a down effect once you do that. But again, we couldn't get past it because we were still in the provisional, but we certainly feel like the future is incredibly bright for this region. So let me take some questions.
Yeah. Anybody from the board have any questions at this time? Ms. Bryson?
I do. Go first.
Ms. Wexton, go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Panu. I also watched your presentation to Beaufort County earlier this year. And one of the main questions I had was about the funding. So are you still asking for a multi-county, I can't remember the full name of the bonds, were you still asking for bonds from 2 counties?
So, the way that we worked with county leading up to all of this was to engage in exploration of a different mechanism that could be there potentially for funding. And the MCIP was just one of the mechanisms proposed that felt like it would engage the entire community in a big way. And but we do believe this is the call for the county and the decision for the county to make. And so we're talking through that in order to be able to figure out all of that can or cannot be done in that context.
And so then do you mean only Beaufort County and not also Jasper County?
Well, the multi-county industrial park would involve Jasper County, yes.
Okay, so 2 county,
Yeah.
so 2 county referendum, bond referendum.
Well, it would. It could be done sequentially or in phase. I think Jasper is already doing some MCIP as it is.
Okay, and how about any municipal funding? Because you said you're here to talk to all of us.
Yes. So I'm not here to tell you what to do, but I'm here to say we've got a handout that we think is going to be beneficial to both of you. And we do believe that the mechanisms that are available to each entity are something that the entity has to make that final determination for, whether it is millage-based, whether it is, so that there's potential approaches to that.
And what kind of timing are you looking at to make this request to the 2 counties for a bond referendum?
Well, we're not, at this point, what we're asking is the green light to go ahead and proceed and the commitment to be able to say, okay, we're going to move forward. And in part because obviously there's a partnership with the state here and the funding that is there. So timeline-wise, as soon as possible.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Because the cost is increasing on us, yes.
Josh?
So first, I just want to thank you for the presentation. This is the first time that I've seen the presentation, so it was helpful for me to see that. A couple of questions that I have. One, we talked a little bit about parking, and I didn't see anything about housing, so I'll couple the 2 questions together. Does the expected growth that you would see from completing phase 1 accommodate parking and housing for that expected growth, or is that a separate plan that you guys have factored into an additional phase?
Okay, that's a good question. If we were to just restrict ourselves at this point to the arena and baseball and softball and track and field, we probably will easily do something with 95 to 100 million. If we were to get a little bit more than that, the next big thing would be parking. But we do feel like we have sufficient parking to where we can be waiting on with regard to parking. With regard to hotels and the other initiatives, we feel like that's talking with third parties, but we can engage third parties right now without the concrete funding with this plan being able to move forward. It's just the timeliness wouldn't be there.
Okay, so and that would cover obviously the transient, but would you expect there to be substantial growth in student population
Yes.
that there would not be housing to accommodate?
Yeah, so I want to address that. Housing is already a challenge right now. And so we are looking on all 3 campuses that are part of USCB, on Beaufort campus, on Hilton Head, and on the Bluffton campus, to be looking at housing initiative that we are engaged with right now.
Okay, so as it stands, you potentially move forward with expanding the operations, but we wouldn't have the housing to accommodate student population growth.
We would have concurrent operations with regard to adding additional housing.
Okay, fair enough. Next question would be, has the university worked to look past state grants and targeted federal grant funding as well, or has it just been limited to state and then down to local, county, municipality?
Okay, so with regard to the academic side, we do really well with grants. We are actually, as a comprehensive university, one of the top, if you look at how many dollars our faculty and staff are able to bring per full-time equivalent in terms of students. But I think your question is probably focused more on grants for these capital projects.
Sure.
Okay? And during the pandemic period, we had opportunity to apply for some of that because of the emergency response. That was the window at the federal level that we did. We did explore that. Unfortunately, I think that funding went in a different direction there. But at this point, it's something we can keep an eye on, but we don't have a program that we have thus far identified that would be able to give us the opportunity to go after that for these projects.
Okay, and I have one more question, and then I'll make one comment after that. So the question is, what would happen to the state funding should you not be able to obtain a match?
Let's hope we keep it. So at this point, it's committed to this particular project. So I'm confident at this point that because our conversation from the get-go had been about a partnership between the state and the local, that we are on good footing.
Okay, so I'll ask it a different way. So is there a match requirement tied to the grant fundings received, or in the event that, say, you don't get a $47 million match, but say you get a $20 million addition to the state funding that you have, is there a plan to utilize the funding that you have from the state and then whatever you receive from the local level to at least get something done, or does it all fall apart if you don't get 95 or 100 million?
No, it doesn't fall apart, okay? And so we don't have a concrete in writing, it has to be 50-50 and it's, or this particular number or target. We did talk about that as we spoke with all legislators with kind of a 50-50 type proposition in mind, but we don't have anything binding in writing.
Okay, that is helpful. And then the comment that I'll make is in regards to, one, my support for this initiative, and I feel like it's just because a lot of what I support is in regards to our youth, higher education, higher paying jobs, the entertainment side to this, that comes from tourism with the sporting events and such. I think all of that's good. I clearly do have concerns in regards to housing and potentially parking and how that factors into the phases. But this is another reason for why I feel like it could be a step in the wrong direction for the county to transition from a capital projects referendum to a transportation referendum. And that decision was loosely made last night, but I think that the flexibility that a capital projects referendum brings is potentially funding initiatives like this, whereas a transportation referendum, my understanding, would be limited to transportation, and so therefore you wouldn't really benefit for initiatives like this. So that's the comment. I appreciate the questions. That definitely helps me. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? Or from the board? Any questions from? Oh, go ahead.
I just have one. I know there were I'm sorry, I forgot his name, was asking questions about the housing. Can you give some updates on your student numbers? I know you said you retained a record amount, but how have they grown over the last, few years to where y'all are at now with all the 3 campuses?
Yeah, so right now, our total enrollment is around 2280. And that's the highest we've had in terms of enrollment. We saw a 7% increase in our retention of returning students, which is, it's a tremendous number in terms of our educational space. And we also have one of the absolute highest full-time equivalent, which is obviously your mix of students have those who are attending full-time and those who are attending part-time. And so when you factor all of that, the FTE is giving you the best picture for your full-time equivalent. And ours is right at the highest number, approaching 2,000, a little over 2,000 in there. Yes.
Mr. Panu, what percentage of the student base would be Beaufort County?
Probably, roughly, the numbers will vary slightly from year to year, but we're looking at about 38 to 40 or so percent.
And then would Jasper County be the number 2?
Yes.
Okay.
Jasper County is number 2, and then we also draw significant number from the Charleston area, Lowcountry. Overall, we have about 85 to 90% in-state, and then the rest from out of state and then international.
Any other questions? Beth?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Since we're talking about student population, one of the things that my constituents always ask me about is the Hilton Head campus. How many students do you have there for the fall semester, and what courses are they taking?
So the focus on the Hilton Head campus has been on hospitality management. So if I was giving you a number, it would be how many of our students have hospitality management as their declared major. But they will be taking classes both in part on the Bluffton campus as well as some of the classes on the Hilton Head campus. The biggest challenge we have faced on the Hilton Head campus is lack of housing. And so we bring 110 or 12 plus majors, and then the challenge of the transportation just kind of decreases some of that. So we are working, we had a solution that thought was going to work for us, but it has kind of died on a vine a little bit, and we're working on a different solution, and we do believe that our numbers will grow significantly there. But in addition, from the get-go, that campus was also accommodating our OLLI program that is very, very robust and engaged there, as well as obviously the future of potentially growing some biology-related program there. We have a lab in the facility. And we also, at this point, looking at an artificial intelligence institute.
So for the fall semester, are you saying there are no classes or students, or there may be?
We do have classes there. I can't tell you how many or how many students are there, but we do have a variety of classes there, including also classes for dual enrollment students.
Okay, thank you.
With regard to the student housing, do you have enough property on campus that you could do a ground lease maybe with a developer to do student housing?
We do have some property on campus behind it, partly to answer your question there. Yes, we do. And so we're looking at maximizing that.
Pretty much like you're going to do with the hotels on either end?
Yeah, it would be Beaufort Jasper Higher Education Commission has done the housing for USCB, and there's an area that we envision for continuing that initiative. Yes.
Any other questions from the board? All right, any questions from the public? Carl?
Good morning. I'm Dick Geyer. I'm a school board representative in District 4. And I'm going to talk to you about some data we've received on this project from the USC Beaufort County Multi-County Industrial Park Proposed Financial Contribution Analysis. This is done by these folks doing this. Now that shows that the allocation of the funding for this, 1% for Jasper County, 40% from USCB, and 60% from Beaufort County. And the majority of the Beaufort County will come from the Beaufort County School District. So I want to read you a statement that we've made, and we've discussed this and voted on this at school board meetings. The Beaufort County School Board strongly objects to school operations and/or school debt millage be used to fund the multi-county industrial park plan for Sand Shark 2020. We are in the process of scheduling a joint county council school board meeting on 30 September to urge the county council to stop or at least delay formation of this MCIP. We will strongly and publicly object to using school operations and/or school debt millage to provide $68.4 million over 30 years to pay for this project. That comes from this spreadsheet. We object to the 2020 project because the school district neither needs or wants to use the facilities included in the scope of this project. We have sufficient athletic fields to meet our needs for our athletic programs. We will not use Sand Shark athletic facilities. Our 6 high school principals state that they do not want to hold their once-a-year, 2-hour graduations in the proposed Sand Shark Fieldhouse for operational and logistics reasons. These graduations are currently held at the high school football stadium with adverse weather contingency of holding the graduation in their gymnasium. In the last 7 years that I've been on the board, 61 graduations have been held on the football field, and 1 graduation was held in the gymnasium due to heavy rain. The school district does need and want the proposed county referendum to improve our roads to pass. Current traffic conditions negatively affect our 3,000 employees coming to work and more than 15,000 students coming to school on a bus, and the rest of the 21,000 students coming to school in privately owned vehicles. It is our concern that our strong public objections to Sand Shark 2020 to add to our existing millage requirements will hurt the chances of the passage of this important referendum. A delay of approval will give USCB the time to provide a business plan to include a market survey to more accurately determine estimated MCIP revenue. Right now, we have an estimate that we feel is very optimistic, I'll say that, to say the least. It will also allow architectural and engineering design work to be completed to give a more accurate estimation of the project cost. So this has been done in 2 other counties in the state, in Horry County and in Berkeley County, where they had a MCIP set up, and they took money from the school district, both school districts, to their detriment. And when you talk to their board members from those 2 counties, they will tell you they had no idea when this project was proposed of the assumptions that were made and the funding and what it actually cost were given. And we don't want to go down that same road. So this is a good project perhaps for the county, but the funding is a concern, and how it is going to be paid for. And so until that is sorted out, we are not going to support providing our millage to this project.
Thank you.
I'm not sure whether it's my place to respond to that, but I think that I appreciate the school system, and I work very well with the school system. We are partners in many initiatives in providing our teachers here. And let me also, just for the record, make it clear that in the early days when we had conversations with regard to the multi-purpose facility, our principals, which we get on campus on a regular basis just to talk about recruitment, et cetera, indicated their willingness and their interest in also having a venue that they can do at graduation. As you know, whenever commencement is happening, and let's say we have 3,000 people indicating that they are going to come to commencement, and we change venue, and we say, because of the inclement weather, we are now going to do it in a gym. And we do have a facility on campus now that can accommodate maybe 600-700 people. That means you're telling the families and all of those that they cannot come, they cannot send, and we have a lot of first-generation graduates for whom this is absolutely something you just don't want to do. And we've had to make those kind of calls, and it's not fun, it's not pleasant. So it's not something that, now whether the school system chooses to use that or not, it's obviously their call, and so it's not the issue. The merit of the project is bigger than just whether or not the school system will use it and benefit it. As we said, it's a multi-purpose facility. It includes economic development, it includes the needs of the universities, and includes a lot of other utilization for that particular space. So the fact that it may not meet a certain need for the school system doesn't make the project irrelevant or of no import. Our commitment was studying potential mechanisms that are there for being able to do funding, and obviously some calls have to be made. Certain assumptions have to be made in order for the numbers that you provided to be the ones working on. And for instance, $68 million is a far cry bigger number if that's what you're using compared to 47 million that we just mentioned here, and what it does in the distributions of what part came from where, okay? And unlike a school district that can do certain things with regard to fundraising and referendum, et cetera, we don't have that particular, as an institution, ability to do. Yeah. So,
Yeah, I think this is a conversation that's going to continue a little bit. But Steve, I think.
Yes, sir. I was just gonna Dr. Panu really hit a lot of what I was gonna say. Is my understanding is that is one funding mechanism that has been looked at, but there are other things that can be done like TIFs, there's MOUs that can be put in place to restrict the revenue from different entities that participate. And I know y'all were looking at fundraising and have a committee that you've created with the foundation to help do that. And again, my understanding is the NCIP was just the first funding mechanism that you've looked at. But you hit the rest of what I was going to say is that this goes beyond, again, way early in the decision or in the process. And I don't think there's any direction that I've seen what USCB would want to take where it would negatively impact partners with this, but more figure out a way to get the funding in place and move forward and support the entire county.
Thank you, Steve. Let me mention just as a refresher, I mentioned how this was inspired by what happened 20 years ago to be able to put together USCB. And it took a TIF funding mechanism that brought on the Bluffton campus. And I saw Steve, where's Steve? Okay, yeah, Steve was so instrumental in there. And that TIF was paid off in 9 years instead of the 30 that was projected on that particular funding, okay? And so the MCIP was envisioned to be very TIF-like, but to also embrace the opportunity of the multi-county, where USCB is both on both Bluffton and Beaufort and Jasper. I'm sorry. Thank you.
I know Josh has got to get up and do a presentation, but is there any last question? Yes, sir.
Has the university discussed the feasibility of corporate sponsorship?
Yeah. There are going to be some naming opportunities that are there, and they are definitely been part of the conversations, but you can't do any of that until you have something to be able to sell corporate with.
All right.
So that's envisioned down the future, yeah.
All right, Dr. Panu, thank you.
Thank you.
Lot more to come, I'm certain. Mr. Gruber. I haven't been able to say that for a while. Mr. Gruber, come on up. See how well you do on this technology.
All right. So I know if I do not have this wrapped up in 15 minutes, I will get in trouble by the boss. So we're going to go through this pretty quickly. Want to do a quick shout out to Tom Hens. I know he regularly attends these meetings. I didn't see him today, but he had sent over a report from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce entitled their Housing Playbook. And so they've kind of waded into this area of how do we address the issue of the ever rising prices in homes and how do we make housing more affordable, particularly for our workforce. And so while the city did not base its current actions on any of those recommendations, I've structured this presentation to kind of really align with those recommendations to show that what the city's doing is helping to hopefully create more affordable workforce housing. So a couple of things that we're going to talk about. In that playbook, there's 4 items that they address. The 4th one we're not going to talk about, which is using government land for housing. That is not part of what Hardeeville's doing right now. We do have some public-private partnerships, but we're not using Bureau of Land Management or conservation areas or forests to create new housing. So we're going to leave that one off. But the other 3 that they have are things that we are all actively working on within the city of Hardeeville. So the 3 recommendations that they have are 1, utilizing and almost requiring small lots within subdivisions. It really comes down to, in their opinion, supply and demand. When demand is high and supply is low, prices will rise to meet that demand. Whereas if you have more supply than there's demand, then prices will fall to meet that demand. And so by creating more housing in terms of quantity, it can bring the individual unit prices down. A good example of that is you can build 5 $1 million homes on an acre apiece. So if you have 5 acres, 5 homes, or you can do 50 townhomes. Really, it is helping to create more quantity through allowing smaller lots. In addition to that, allowing a variety of housing types, duplexes, townhomes, multifamily, etc. Again, it comes down to density and getting more units on a particular site. Hardeeville is allowing these types of residences to go in a lot of the communities that we're going to take a look at. And then last, building homes near where the jobs are located. If you drive on 278 in the mornings, and I know being here in Hardeeville, it's something that's very particular to us, we have a lot of traffic on 278 that gets bottlenecked up at the intersection of Latitude, Margaritaville, and Hilton Head Lakes. That traffic, by and large, are not Hardeeville residents. Those are people who live outside of this area and outside of the state, but they're traveling to the jobs that are in Bluffton and Hilton Head and other places. And so if you can build housing where those jobs are, you can cut down on the traffic, but you can also create more affordable housing when people then don't have to add in their commute to also their housing costs. So we're going to talk about those areas as part of this presentation. In terms of population growth, we are continuing to grow. We put this slide in here. This was our projections that we created a number of years ago, and it's interesting that they are almost spot on to what we're seeing in terms of actual counts of population. So while some of these look like very large numbers back in the day, yeah, we are right around the 20,000 mark today in terms of our population, and likely to continue growing. You see there by about 23 to 2,000 per year, and so that is likely to continue. Why that's important? By having the rooftops, you generate more commercial businesses. By generating more commercial businesses, you create more jobs. By having more jobs, you can create more workforce housing. So having all of that is a positive thing when it comes to creating more of that housing type. This is our actual number. So at the end of last year, we were just shy of 1,400 new single-family homes. These were CO'd, issued, out the door, all done. Our current projections are looking at, I know we've got it in here. Let me advance it a little bit more. We've got a slide. I'm not seeing it. All right. Our current projections for this year are less than what they were last year. So we are seeing a little bit of a slowdown. There we go. It's at the bottom. Okay. So for 2025, last year we were just shy of 1,400. This year we're projecting to be probably around 1,200 by the end of this calendar year. We were just over 1,000 through August. And so kind of how we're tracking that is we're going to likely wind up somewhere around 1,200. In talking about bringing in where everybody's living. So we've got growth that is going on everywhere. The right-hand column is a list, and it's not an exhaustive list, but it's a list of all of the different subdivisions and communities that are actively being constructed as we speak. And so you can see on the map that they are spread out through the entire north, south, east, and west boundaries of the city. In terms of numbers, our most voluminous communities are Latitude, Margaritaville, Sun City, Argent Cottages. Now, it used to be Riverton Point was number 3 last year. Argent Cottages has now exceeded that. Those are single-family detached homes, but they are rental homes rather than for-sale homes. But you can see it is a number of units across the board in all of those different communities. In terms of jobs, again, we are focused on bringing employment to where the people are going to be. And so we've had several announcements over the course of this last year. The Clarius Park with TS Conductors, 2.7 million square feet of warehouse and commercial space. TS Conductors, as I said, is going to be 462 manufacturing jobs. And so very excited about that. That is in their kind of first phase. So they've leased 300,000 square feet of existing space. They have taken an option on an additional 1 million square feet next door to their current location. And so they have the ability to do some future expansion and continue to grow in this area once they get established. Additionally, we had the opening of the SALT, South Atlantic Logistics Terminal, 880 acres. It'd be 550 jobs at full build out. We're also looking at the Sherwood Tract being marketed by the Southern Carolina Alliance as an OEM manufacturer for the Hyundai plant, for any of the other automobile plants, any of the other manufacturing companies around here. But the goal would be, if we brought in somebody of that caliber, probably somewhere in the 700 to 800 range in terms of new jobs with that project as well. And then we've got Exit 3. This entire development here is Riverport. It's around 6,000 acres. You've got residential housing in the northern section. You've got office, hospital, professional space in the middle, commercial areas to the south of that, residential mixed use in this area, a convention center, restaurants, retail, hotels in this area, and then heavy industrial, light industrial, and manufacturing at the very southern end. But it's a massive development that is still in the process of coming online. And then that's the very bottom part of Riverport, which is the industrial development. South Point, that's over by Exit 8. So it's going to be 840 multifamily units, 580 single-family units, so 1,400 residential units, not the 14,000 that was quoted in the newspaper, 1,400. But then in addition to the residential development, 850,000 square feet of commercial development along that Exit 8 corridor. We've got Buc-ee's that's going to come in a couple of years once the I-95 widening and Exit 8 work is done. Again, 70,000 square feet and 200 full-time employees at full build-out. So again, all of those are all things that have been announced just within the last 12 months here in the city. We're also working on redeveloping our downtown commercial area. So the city has acquired several parcels along the White-Hardy Boulevard corridor. We're working with a private development firm out of New Jersey on a plan that would allow for first floor commercial, possibly even second floor commercial, but then probably second and third floor being residential rental space above that commercial. Again, with the idea of trying to create a more downtown business district type feel. In terms of the city staff, we've continued to grow. We've more than doubled our size. 10 years ago in 2015, we had 70 full-time employees. Now we have 171. And again, as the city continues to increase in population, our employee base will have to continue to increase as well. Attainable workforce housing. So within a lot of the new developments that we're seeing coming online, and I talked about Margaritaville, Sun City, Riverton Point, those are more of our established communities. They've been here for a while. They've been actively marketing for a long time. A lot of these ones that you see here, the Hunt Club, the Preserve, the Retreat at East Argent, those are new communities that are just getting started and units being built. And you can see that these are much more geared towards entry-level housing. So the typical price point for something like this that we're seeing is anywhere between $300,000 and $350,000. Now, comparatively, that's still a very big number, but it is cheaper than the $600,000 that you would see somewhere in Bluffton, and it's cheaper than the $800,000 that you would see somewhere in Hilton Head. So as far as the price point goes, it is much more attainable, even though it is still high comparatively to a number of other areas around the country.
Josh, what about you're so close to Savannah and everything else? Where does that price point come in?
So I don't know about the single family homes, but it's interesting because one of the things that we've looked at is with regards to multifamily. The Pooler, Wentworth, Guyton, Rincon area, a number of years ago, they started building a lot of multifamily housing projects over that way. And that's where a lot of our workforce lives, and that's where they're commuting from. And so I was over there a couple of weeks ago driving around, and I happened to notice that what we're starting to see, and I think it is very much within that supply and demand model, because there's now so much supply there, you're starting to see signs out front that say, no deposit, no necessary, 3 months free rent. You're starting to see that competition kick in where it's it's lowering prices because there's the volume of supply that's there. So, I don't know about the single family market, but I do know with the multifamily, because they've been able to achieve that, their costs are a lot cheaper than what we're seeing here. So one of the things that I think it's in a future slide that's going to come up, in addition to the single family housing that the city's approved, we also have 3,000 multifamily units that have been approved, are in various stages of development. And again, our hope is as those come online, by providing that supply, it will drive the average cost down, because right now I think we're somewhere in the neighborhood of about $1,500 for a one-bedroom apartment, and that's very, very expensive for this area. So this is, we'll go through a handful of these communities, just kind of, again, looking at what that entry-level housing product looks like. So we've got Millstone Landing, just off of 46 here, south of downtown, 620 units, 75 of those 620 have been built. And they're doing kind of a handful at the time as they sell out and move into their next phases. But you can see They're on small lots. They are tightly packed together. It is a very dense community within this particular property. Royal Oaks, this is over by the rec center. It is a combination of townhomes, which again helps to provide that density because you need a lot less footprint in terms of real estate for a townhome than you do a single family detached structure. And so it's a mix of both single family detached homes, but those homes are typically around somewhere between 1,600 to 1,800 square feet. So they are most definitely on the smaller side. But you've got a townhome mix and then single family homes that'll be in the interior of that development. Another one, Ryan Homes in Royal Oaks, 250 units. So that's the single family component that goes with the multifamily, or I'm sorry, the townhome. So the townhomes are being built by Farino, and Ryan Homes are doing the single family homes. We've got the retreat at East Argent, 630 units. About half of that has been permitted already. But you can see small homes on small lots. It's a D.R. Horton community, so again, an entry-level product for primarily geared towards workforce or families. The Hunt Club at East Argent, again, 500 units, only 15 so far have been issued, but they're continuing to build and grow out. We've also got the Preserve at Argent West, 350 units. They're about halfway there. And again, it's all the same type. So this is the slide that I mentioned about the multifamily units. We've got 3,000 that have been approved, and just within the last, I would say, 16 months, we've seen this product start coming online. And so we've issued 700 building permits out of those 3,000 units. So Hill Point, that's a multifamily. This is up near the hospital complex. You've got just right there, if you've seen the clearing that was taking place along I-95, everybody said, oh, that's where Buc-ee's is going. That's not Buc-ee's. That is a apartment project. It's 216 units in addition to the 300 that Hill Point is taking on somewhere else. Lakeview Terrace, 144 multifamily. This is after off of Jasper Station Road, so in the East Argent area. We've got, okay, so this is now into all of these. I think it's worth noting there is no public funding, there is no subsidies, there is no financing. This is all just within the market here that is occurring naturally. Now, that is great that the supply will hopefully bring those prices down, but we also know that at $300,000 to $350,000, it still remains unattainable for a large number of people who live in this community. So there are projects that the city is working on where there is governmental involvement or governmental subsidy, and this is one of them. So this is a project that we are working with Bennett and Rydell companies, and so the city owned this property and provided the land to the development company who's going to build somewhere between 50 to 60 workforce housing units. The only thing that this project is waiting on is funding. They are looking to seek funding through the Low Income Housing Tax Credit Program. They've submitted a couple rounds of applications. They have not been selected yet, but we are working with them. We're working with representatives from our delegation to continue to lobby them to make changes to their funding formula so that we can become more competitive for those grants and allow this project to move forward.
Is that a long-term ground lease?
No, it was an outright donation, but it's restricted in terms of how it can be used going forward. I think it's actually probably gonna be very similar to the one that was done in Bluffton off of 46.
On 1095 Mirror River.
Thank you, yes,
Yeah,
that
we
one.
donated. Yeah.
Yep.
How many years?
I think it's in perpetuity.
Okay.
Yeah. I know it's at least a minimum 30 because it has to run with the bonds that are taken out to pay for the financing of it. But I think in this instance, it is a perpetual restriction. Another one that we participated in, this was Harvey Place. So this was a public-private partnership with the city, a private developer, and a nonprofit organization. The city acquired some land just up the road from this building. We partnered with Farino to build their townhome models on these lots, and then we partnered with Habitat for Humanity to qualify the residents and then oversee and manage this development. We believe that this was so effective that we've actually just signed a contract to purchase an additional, I think it's an addition, just shy of 4 acres where we're going to be able to do at least 18 more residential housing units. Now, whether it will be with the same partners or not, I don't know. But I think we're going to look at doing the same model where we work with a builder or some other developer to build the units on the land that the city owns, and then we'll work with a nonprofit to qualify people to put people in those units. So that's the property that we are under contract to purchase. So we can do 9 duplexes or 18 single-family homes. Again, we'll talk with council once we've closed on this about what the product is that we want to go forward with, but we know it is going to be some kind of workforce housing project. All right.
All right,
So
good job,
only 3 minutes over.
according to your watch. No, I'm just kidding. Any questions from the board?
Just one question, on the way here, on the right-hand side on
Yep.
278, on that land, is that another one of these?
So that is a subdivision. That is actually in the unincorporated portion of the county.
Okay.
It is 275 single-family detached homes. I don't know, initially when it was brought forward, it was going to be single-family homes that are for rent rather than for sale. But I've heard that maybe it's going to be a 50-50 mix, so I'm not exactly sure about that structure, but it is 275 single-family homes.
I just have one quick
Go ahead.
question, because I don't want to keep us any longer, or your boss will get mad. I've always told people who, talk about the growth that we have in Bluffton that they haven't seen anything yet. And when I first got here a little over 4 years ago, I was told there were 60,000 residential units approved in Hardyville. 2.5 people, that's 150,000. I don't think people quite grasp that. Where are y'all up to now on the total number of residential units that have been approved?
For what has been approved, so PDDs, development agreements, things where they are vested with at least some level of developable rights, we're right around 20,000 is what's in our pipeline. Now, that doesn't include what's been approved beforehand. But that is what is looking at us in the future, is 20,000 units that are going to come online.
Additional than what's already moving? Yeah.
Yes. So again, 2.1 people per household. Could it be 30 to 50,000 more people? It could.
Yeah.
And cars.
Yep, and cars. But again, think about the volume of traffic that we have going through the community today, which aren't residents. And so we may be swapping one out for another. Hopefully.
I have a quick disclaimer and then a question. So the disclaimer is I'm not as familiar with the challenges that you guys face in Hardyville. So my question is just simply to see if there's alignment with some of the challenges that we face. So I know the challenges that we face in the city of Beaufort are specifically tied to our transportation and our infrastructure and the fact that we've fallen a little bit behind in that regard. We have the same hopes that some of our residential developments will kind of help with the inventory there, and the supply will, bring the price down. However, how is the city of Hardyville working to balance and make sure that the infrastructure and the capacities are compatible with the growth that you expect?
Yep. So our best goal is to try to keep pace with the growth. We're never going to be out in front of it, because to be out in front of it, I've got to tax residents who live here now to be able to bring new residents who don't live here yet here. And the residents who live here now don't want to pay for that. So we have to wait until the people actually come and they start paying taxes before we can use that revenue to then provide improvements in infrastructure. But we are working in all areas across the city. So we have active projects in the East Argent area, along 278, along all of our major corridors. We have some level of roadway improvement project either planned, in permitting, in design, or at least provided for in terms of funding. And so what I mean by that is Jasper County had the vision to adopt the sales tax referendum. So we have several $100 million that is going to be used specifically for roadway improvement projects in this area. So 278, Argent, 462, 170, 321, all of our main corridors have some level of improvement planned for that. Now, the city is also doing a lot of projects on its own initiative. So when you drove here today, if you came over on Argent, you saw all the orange barrels along the roadway. That's a project that the city's doing to realign Shortcut Boulevard with Jasper Station Road so that we can install a traffic signal there and it's a very dangerous intersection right now. And so that's something that the city's taking on, even though it's a DOT-owned roadway.
Are they going to widen there?
What now?
Are they going to widen?
So the Argent corridor is part of what was funded through the sales tax program. It is just now getting underway with design work. I think the assumption is that, yes, it's probably going to need to be widened, but there's been nothing that's been brought forward yet that shows, yes, this is what needs to be done to improve it. But I can't remember the number, but it was a fairly significant number, tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars that is earmarked for that corridor.
It's a tight little corridor, because you got all those buildings kind of right up.
You got the buildings there, you got the utilities that are even closer to the roadway, and then you've got wetlands that are on either side of it. So it's going to be a very difficult project. But I know the county, the city, and the town of Ridgeland have all prioritized that project and the 278 corridor as the highest priority projects coming out of that referendum. So those are the ones they want to get started on first, because we're looking at a minimum 5-year process between design and permitting before we ever start talking about seeing a shovel in the ground.
Because that whole area between 462 and Argent Road, including the old field where they got to stop by.
Yep.
You're starting to see a lot of backup.
A lot of backup there, and all of that area is in Beaufort County. So none of the Jasper County sales tax dollars will go there, and that is why we continue to have conversations with county representatives about how important it is that if they are going to go back out to the public for another referendum in 2026, it's imperative that it gets passed. And so it needs to be scoped appropriately, it needs to be sized appropriately, and it needs to be educated to the public appropriately, because that problem is not going to go away. It is only going to continue to get worse unless we can find funding to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars to make the improvements that's going to be needed there.
All right, so any other questions from the board? Great. Any questions from the public? Great. So,
Anybody dare to ask questions?
you know,
Volunteer for presentation next month, I'll be
Yeah.
happy to do.
okay, so Bluffton, and then,
I think he asked for 2, I don't know if anybody else wants to.
I'll volunteer for Royal.
Do we need a motion for that?
They're not here.
they're not here.
did it.
I like it. That's good. So if they can't, then what we can do is reach out to figure out who can get it done. Because since we are over time, and I don't want to have the reputation of always going over a lot or having long meetings. So we'll look at that, and then we had discussed the presentation of findings from the county on the survey of the plastic bag ordinance. Do we want to incorporate that the same day? Try to anyway, because it shouldn't be that long. Okay, we'll do that as well. All right. Any other business? Great. Thank you all. Very informative day. I'm sorry Mr. Williams missed this, but I'm sure he's watching. So y'all have a great day.
He's on the plane now.
Oh, he's on the plane. That's right. He's on the plane.
Now his wife's next to him, he won't.